The most dangerous lies aren't statements, they're questions. Questions that seem innocent until you realize they were setting you up the whole time. I've been there, answering without thinking, only to walk away feeling exposed, manipulated, and unsure of myself. That's how good liars operate. They plant doubt, confusion, and control, all with a simple question. But once you learn the 7 questions they always use, you'll see straight through them. And in this video, I'll show you exactly how. My friend, before we dive into the specific questions, you need to understand why this matters so much, especially in your 20s, when you're building your career, relationships, and sense of self. Manipulative people don't just waste your time, they can derail your entire trajectory. I've seen it happen to friends who got involved with manipulative partners who slowly eroded their confidence. I've watched people get trapped in toxic work environments where manipulative managers made them question their own competence. I've witnessed business partnerships fall apart because one person was a master at flipping every conversation to avoid accountability. The scary part is that manipulators are everywhere. They're in your workplace, your friend group, on dating apps, even in your family sometimes. They've learned that questions are the perfect weapon because they seem innocent. When someone asks you a question, your natural response is to answer, not to analyze whether the question itself is an attack. That's exactly what makes these questions so dangerous. They bypass your logical defenses and go straight for your emotions. Before you know it, you're defending yourself instead of addressing their behavior. You're trying to prove you're not crazy instead of calling out their lies. You're apologizing for having boundaries instead of enforcing them. Let me start with one of the most insidious questions manipulators use to flip every situation in their favor. And let me tell you, once you see these patterns, you'll never be fooled again. Question number 1, do you even trust me? So this one is pure emotional manipulation, and it's incredibly effective because it sounds vulnerable. You catch someone being sketchy, maybe they've been hiding something, maybe their story doesn't add up. Maybe you found evidence they weren't honest about something. Instead of explaining themselves, they flip the script with this guilt trip. Wow, do you even trust me? This question is designed to put you on the defensive immediately. Suddenly the conversation isn't about their suspicious behavior, it's about whether you're a trusting person or not. It's about your character, not theirs. Here's what makes this so insidious. It weaponizes the fact that you care about the relationship. Of course you want to trust them. Of course you don't want to be the paranoid, controlling person who questions everything. So when they ask this, your instinct is to back down and prove that you do trust them. But here's the thing, and this is crucial. People who are actually trustworthy don't need to ask if you trust them. They show you through consistent actions, through transparency, through taking responsibility when they mess up. If someone has to ask whether you trust them while they're dodging accountability for sketchy behavior, that's your answer right there. My friend, I learned this lesson the hard way in a business situation where I had a partner who was being secretive about financial details. When I asked for transparency, instead of providing the information, he asked, "Do you even trust me as your partner?" I spent weeks feeling guilty about questioning him, trying to prove I trusted him while he continued being secretive. Eventually, I discovered he was hiding significant problems that affected both of us. Trust isn't something you prove with words when someone demands it. Trust is built through consistent, honest actions over time. Question number 2, why are you being so dramatic? This is the manipulator's greatest hit, and if you've heard it, you know exactly how it feels. You call someone out for lying, breaking a promise, or treating you badly, and instead of addressing what they did, they hit you with this classic, "Why are you being so dramatic?" Let me be clear about what's happening here. They're not denying what they did. They can't because you caught them. Instead, they're trying to reframe the entire situation so that your reaction becomes the problem, not their actions. This question is designed to make you second-guess yourself. The moment you start defending the validity of your emotions instead of focusing on their behavior, they've won. You've just walked into their trap, and now you're playing their game by their rules. I've seen this play out in work situations where someone drops the ball on an important project, and when confronted, they respond with, "Wow, you're really freaking out about this. It's not that big of a deal." Suddenly, instead of discussing their failure to deliver, you're defending your right to be upset about missed deadlines. I've watched it happen in relationships where one person lies about where they were, and when caught, they say, "You're being so paranoid and dramatic about this." Now, instead of explaining the lie, they've made the conversation about your trust issues. Here's the truth. Manipulators ask this question to discredit your emotions so they don't have to face their actions. If you fall for it and start explaining why you have the right to be upset, you've already lost. Don't defend your reaction. Address their action. I'm really curious about your experience with this. Have you ever been in a situation where someone asked you a question that made you feel like you were going crazy, but you couldn't quite put your finger on why? Drop your story in the comments. Sharing these experiences helps other people realize they're not alone and that their instincts were probably right. Question number 3, what do you want me to say? This might be the most infuriating question on the list because it's so passive-aggressive. You confront someone about their behavior. Maybe they hurt your feelings, maybe they broke a commitment, maybe they straight up lied to you. Instead of taking responsibility, they throw their hands up and ask, "What do you want me to say?" Here's what this question really means. I'm guilty, but I want to make you feel bad for confronting me about it. It's the adult version of a child getting caught and pretending they don't understand what they did wrong. Let me tell you, this question is designed to frustrate you into dropping the conversation. They're acting like they're too confused or overwhelmed to discuss it right now, but what they really want is for you to give them a script. They want you to tell them exactly what to say so they can fake an apology, check the "we talked about it" box, and move on like nothing happened. I've encountered this in workplace situations where someone missed an important deadline, and when confronted, instead of explaining what went wrong or apologizing, they said, "I don't know what you want me to say about it." They're not confused. They're avoiding accountability. The answer to "what do you want me to say" is simple. I want you to tell the truth about what happened and take responsibility for your part in it. If they can't do that without you providing them a script that tells you everything you need to know about their character. Question number 4, can we just move on already? This question usually comes after you've been going back and forth about their behavior and they realize their other tactics aren't working. They're tired of being held accountable, so they try to end the conversation prematurely by playing the "let's just move forward" card. Here's what makes this so manipulative. They're framing continued discussion as you being difficult or holding grudges. They want to skip the accountability part and jump straight to the everything's fine part. It's like wanting dessert without eating dinner. They want the resolution without doing the work. Now, don't get me wrong, moving forward is important in any relationship, but there's a difference between moving on after someone has taken responsibility and made amends versus moving on because they're tired of being confronted about their behavior. Real healing requires real accountability. You can't have genuine closure without going through the process of acknowledgement, responsibility, and commitment to change. When someone asks, "Can we just move on already?" what they're really saying is, "Can we pretend this never happened so I don't have to face the consequences of my actions?" I've seen this destroy relationships and work partnerships. Someone does something that breaks trust, and instead of doing the hard work of rebuilding that trust, they just want to fast forward past the uncomfortable part. But trust doesn't work that way. You can't just declare that it's time to move on. You have to earn the right to move forward. My friend, if you're finding these insights helpful, I share a much deeper analysis of these topics in my weekly newsletter. I break down the psychology behind manipulative tactics, share personal experiences dealing with difficult people, and provide frameworks for protecting yourself in professional and personal relationships. You can find the link in the description if you want these insights delivered directly to your inbox. Would love to see you there. Question number 5, are you really going to throw everything away over this? This is the nuclear option. When all their other tactics have failed and they realize you might actually hold them accountable or walk away, they drop this emotional bomb. They frame the situation like you're the villain for daring to have boundaries or consequences for their behavior. Let me tell you, this question is designed to make you feel guilty for enforcing your standards. They want you to believe that expecting honesty and respect is somehow unreasonable. They're betting that your fear of losing the relationship will override your need for self-respect. Sometimes they deliver this with tears in their eyes or panic in their voice, like you're the one breaking the trust. But here's the reality check. If someone's reaction to being held accountable is to threaten the relationship, they've just told you exactly how much they value your well-being compared to their comfort. I've watched friends stay in terrible relationships because their partner would ask this question every time they tried to address serious issues. "You're going to break up with me over this?" became a way to avoid ever having to change or grow. The truth is, if the price of keeping someone in your life is betraying your own values and boundaries, then it's too expensive. Healthy relationships don't require you to sacrifice your self-respect to maintain them. Question number 6, are you sure you're remembering that correctly? My friend, this is gaslighting at its finest, and it's absolutely devastating when done skillfully. You confront someone about something they said or did, and instead of addressing it, they make you question your own memory and perception of reality. This question is particularly insidious because memory isn't perfect, and manipulators know this. They're betting that your natural self-doubt will kick in and make you second-guess what you clearly remember happening. Once you start doubting your own memory, you'll start doubting your judgment about everything. I've seen this destroy people's confidence completely. Someone remembers being promised a promotion, being told they could take time off, or being assured about a deadline. When they bring it up later, the manipulator responds with, "Are you sure I said that? That doesn't sound like something I would say. Maybe you misunderstood." The goal isn't just to avoid accountability for that specific incident, it's to train you not to trust your own perceptions. If they can make you doubt what you clearly remember, they can control your version of reality going forward. This is especially effective in workplace situations where there weren't witnesses to important conversations. Your boss promises you something in a private meeting, then later acts like it never happened. When you bring it up, they look genuinely puzzled and ask if you're sure you're remembering correctly. Here's the truth. If someone consistently makes you question your memory of important conversations, start documenting everything. Send follow-up emails summarizing what was discussed. Your memory isn't the problem. Their accountability is. Question number 7. Why do you always make everything about you? This is the master deflection tactic, and it's brilliant in its simplicity. You're trying to discuss how someone's behavior affected you, and they flip the entire conversation to make your emotional response the problem instead of their actions. The manipulator takes your legitimate concern about their behavior and reframes it as evidence that you're self-centered. Suddenly, instead of discussing what they did wrong, you're defending your right to have feelings about how you were treated. I've watched this play out in relationships where one person is consistently late, unreliable, or inconsiderate. When the other person tries to address it, they get hit with, "You always make everything about you. Can't you think about what I might be going through?" Now, instead of addressing the pattern of inconsideration, the hurt person is made to feel selfish for having emotional reactions to being disrespected. This works in professional settings too. You bring up concerns about a colleague's behavior affecting the team, and they respond with, "Why do you always make everything about you?" This is supposed to be collaborative. They've just reframed your professional feedback as personal selfishness. The truth is that it's completely reasonable to discuss how someone's behavior affects you. That's how healthy relationships work. People acknowledge the impact of their actions on others and adjust accordingly. When someone tries to shame you for having emotional responses to their behavior, they're telling you that your feelings don't matter to them. The correct response to this question is, "I'm not making this about me. I'm discussing the impact of your actions, which is a normal part of any relationship." If you can't handle feedback about how your behavior affects others, that's something you need to work on. My friend, these 7 questions are just the beginning of how manipulators operate, but there's one more crucial thing you need to understand about why good people fall for these tactics and how to protect yourself. You might be wondering how intelligent, successful people fall for these obviously manipulative questions. The answer is that manipulators specifically target your positive qualities and use them against you. They target your empathy by making you worry about being too harsh or unfair. They target your desire to be reasonable by making you question whether your standards are too high. They target your commitment to relationships by making you feel like you're giving up too easily. In your 20s, you're especially vulnerable to these tactics because you're still learning to trust your instincts about people. You're building your professional network, forming serious relationships, and trying to be open-minded and giving people chances. Manipulators exploit this openness ruthlessly. They also know that young professionals often worry about seeming difficult or high maintenance, especially in work environments. So when a manipulative colleague or boss asks, "Why are you being so dramatic?" your instinct might be to back down to protect your reputation, even when your concerns are completely valid. The key is learning to trust your gut while also developing the skills to articulate your boundaries clearly. When someone asks you one of these manipulative questions, you don't have to get defensive or prove anything. You can simply redirect, "I'm not interested in discussing my reaction right now. Let's focus on what happened and how we move forward constructively." Now that you know what to look for, let me tell you how to respond when someone tries to manipulate you with these questions. For "Why are you being so dramatic?" respond, "I'm not interested in debating my reaction. Let's discuss what happened and how to prevent it in the future." For "Do you even trust me?" respond, "Trust is built through actions, not questions. Let's focus on the behavior that concerns me." For "What do you want me to say?" respond, "I want you to tell me the truth about what happened and take responsibility for your part in it." For "Can we just move on already?" respond, "I'm happy to move forward once we've addressed this properly and you've shown you understand the impact of your actions." For "Are you really going to throw everything away over this?" respond, "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm asking you to respect my boundaries and take accountability. That's what healthy relationships require." For Are you sure you're remembering that correctly? Respond, yes, I'm confident in my memory. Let's focus on addressing what happened rather than questioning my recollection. 4. Why do you always make everything about you? Respond, I'm not making this about me. I'm discussing the impact of your actions, which is a normal part of any relationship. The key to all these responses is that you're not defending yourself or explaining why your feelings are valid. You're redirecting the conversation back to their behavior and what needs to happen for the relationship to be healthy. My friend, learning to spot and shut down manipulation isn't just about dealing with difficult people today. It's about protecting your future. The boundaries you set and maintain in your 20s establish patterns that will follow you throughout your career and personal life. If you learn early that it's okay to accept manipulative behavior to keep the peace, you'll find yourself in increasingly toxic situations. But if you develop strong manipulation immunity now, you'll naturally attract healthier relationships and opportunities because you won't tolerate anything less. This is especially crucial in professional settings where manipulative people often rise to positions of power. Knowing how to maintain your boundaries with a manipulative boss, colleague, or client can literally save your career and mental health. The manipulators in your life are counting on you not recognizing their tactics. They're betting that you'll get confused, defensive, or guilty when they deploy these questions. But now you know better. Now you can see the manipulation for what it is and respond from a position of strength rather than confusion. When you stop falling for manipulative questions, something amazing happens. Manipulative people lose interest in you. They realize they can't control you, so they move on to easier targets. Meanwhile, the honest, healthy people in your life will respect you more for having clear boundaries. Your 20s are when you're building the foundation for everything that comes after. Don't let manipulators convince you that having standards makes you difficult. Don't let them gaslight you into accepting behavior that damages your well-being. You deserve relationships where respect flows both ways and where people take responsibility for their actions. Trust your instincts, maintain your boundaries, and remember, if someone has to manipulate you to stay in your life, they don't deserve to be there in the first place. If you found this video helpful, this next video right here will take you even further. Your choice, your life. Start now.